All right, well, everybody, thanks for joining today. Welcome to, I believe we are now episode 3 of the Cutting Edge podcast. Joined by my esteemed guests and colleagues today. Our topic today, a master's class in practice administration, and a recap of Augusta National 2021, aka the Masters.
We have somebody that was at the Masters.
Yes, we do have somebody here today that was at the Masters on Saturday, on moving day Saturday.
I mean, you want the inside scoop. Rick's got it.
Man, it's awesome. Like I'm excited
Especially
to talk
on
about
Joaquin
this.
Neiman.
Yeah, we get all the inside traffic we want on Joaquin. So just a quick shout out to Jen Eaton with Moonshot Marketing Group. So Jen, can't thank you enough for everything you've done for the Cutting Edge with helping us develop our logo, get us up on social media, get us our website started. You're a rock star. You've been around for a long time. A lot of people in our medical community don't know you. They should. You do great work, and man, you take pride in your work. So anything we can do to help you, we'd love to, because you've helped us a tremendous amount at this point.
How do we get a hold of her? Moonshot?
Moonshot MG. So actually it's Jen at moonshotmg.com, but moonshotmg.com would be her website. And you can always send me a message through the Cutting Edge Podcast LinkedIn page or through our Facebook page, and we can get you connected with her.
Rocking.
So awesome to have her on board to help us spread the message and share what we're talking about. So to get right into it, the guests to my right here, we got Kelly Payette, the Chief Executive Officer of Complete Operations Management Solutions. To her right, Mr. Rick Weymier, the Chief Administrative Officer from the Carrell Clinic. It is your 100-year anniversary this year, is it not, Rick?
It's exciting.
Wow.
We're the oldest orthopedic group in the U.S. west of the Mississippi.
That's incredible. Oldest orthopedic group in the U.S. west of the Mississippi.
Yeah. And we go back to 1917 when W.B. Carrell became a physician, first orthopedic surgeon in Dallas, and went off to World War I and officially started the Carrell Clinic in 1921. And he was also the founder of what is now known as the Scottish Rite Hospital.
Wow. So now Carrell Clinic's the oldest clinic west of the Mississippi, but that doesn't necessarily mean you're the oldest clinic administrator west of the Mississippi. But you've been around, you've got some tread that's been run off the tires, right? Would we dare to
given how old I turned last week, I may be the oldest one west of the Mississippi.
Well, we're going to leave that alone for the moment.
He told me his age pre-show, but I'm not going to say anything.
Yeah.
Okay.
We'll just say we have a tremendous amount of experience sitting at the table with us to talk about practice administrations, the do's, the don'ts. Man, a lot of lessons learned the hard way, and that's part of what we're going to uncover today. And we're going to talk about not just the past, but we're talking about the future too, which I think is it's uber critical, especially in this ever-changing landscape we live in healthcare. So, we're going to lead off with a really a critical question, and that's a lot of questions around staying afloat in today's healthcare economy. It has been a brutal year for a lot of healthcare practitioners, especially those in surgery with COVID in the past 12 months. So, I'm going to lob this out there for the two of you and choose who wants to take the lead on this. But, what would you say leads to an organization staying afloat and that drives excellence in today's healthcare economy?
Yeah, I'll go first, and
Sure.
then I'll let Rick lead with what I have to say. Rick and I have talked about this a lot. It takes good leadership. It takes a unified team, because you kind of said it. It's ever-changing healthcare industry. It's like every day we turn around, something is changing. We actually all recently experienced that with COVID. It's this is how we're going to roll out COVID testing, COVID vaccines. We're to build this, we're not to build this, we're to do it this way with this insurance, but not this insurance. And so what I've found through all of my experience is it takes a unified team. That's why Rick and I, we value the people that we work with, whether that be our operations directors, our director of therapies, the CMOs, the physicians involved, is because it takes a forward-thinking and dynamic team to push forward and to keep up with everything. And if you don't have that, as a practice, you can fail. And a matter of fact, in my business, that's a big part of what actually empowered me to go do what I do, is because I don't like to see physicians fail. I come from an entrepreneurial family, and then I've had the opportunity to work with a great group of physicians that are very forward thinking, and they always want the best of everything. And so anyways, and what I realized is you have to have all the components to really make it work and push forward and to keep up with everything. And if you don't, you can really fail. And so, and as comms, I see that every day where physicians don't have that group of leaders that are working together to, hey, you're going to do this and I'm going to do this and we're going to get the job done and we're going to research this and we're going to push forward at every cost to make sure that we're staying compliant, to make sure that we're bringing in dollars to pay the employees, and everybody in our group. And so I have found that to be the most important thing.
From a leadership standpoint, I'm always curious. You said that, it takes this forward-thinking person to be great in this environment. Do you have any examples for us or anything you can share with us in this ever-changing environment where you're seeing these types of leadership traits really come out, or something that's exciting for us, or a story you could tell us?
Yeah, absolutely. So, interestingly enough, I have worked with at OSD, she is the director of therapy. She's probably 2 years older than I am. She's a DPT, so she's got a doctorate degree, level experience, and then, I've got my master's, and she is always coming to me with ideas or, hey, I read this, I got an update from Medicare, and her and I will literally just tackle it. With that, we come to the board and we propose solutions of like, hey guys, this update came out from CMS or Optum, we got to start doing this to stay compliant. And we put it in place and we move forward. Without that, practices don't even know that they're not compliant or not doing what they should be doing. And so that's the kind of forward thinking. It takes a team communicating and putting things in perspective and then putting, procedure in place. That's how I would view it.
I'm in a very compliant world too in the business that I'm in, and it seems like there's ever-changing compliance. What do you guys think from your perspective? And I know, Rick, where you sit overseeing a hospital or being a part of the team that administrates it, what is causing this continued change and continued compliance burden that is happening? Is there anything you can point to that says this is why that's happening?
Well, I think whether it's in healthcare or any other business, we are certainly a lot more visible. I mean, it always amazes me what gets caught on camera. It just, there's cameras everywhere. So I think there's just a lot more available scrutiny, and it's a lot easier to hold people accountable, or at least describe what's going on around you. And a lot of it is very, very difficult to deal with because, and this isn't exactly compliance, but it's public stuff where people can say whatever they want about your practice and then put it on Yelp or Google or Health Grades and that type of thing. So you have to be, part of it is we have to do it ourselves because we have to present to the public that we are squeaky clean. Mm-hmm. Compliance isn't a bad thing. It keeps all of us honest. There could be a lot of tendency in this environment where there's such high price pressure and cost pressure on it that you don't want to create an environment where people are tempted to cut corners. Mm-hmm. So you always have to be on your game. And then another way of looking at it is compliance in some way is nothing more than what our doctors always want to do anyways. Every one of our physicians wants to have a good outcome for their patient. They want to do a good surgery. They want to do good post-discharge care. They want to do good follow-up care. They want to do good conservative care. So, compliance may be nothing more than quantifying what our doctors want to achieve anyways.
So, you guys talk about compliance. We talk about, teamwork and leadership. Part of the preamble before we actually started recording was this whole idea of metrics and measurables and accountability. And, we have so much data at our fingertips. It's almost overkill, the amount of data we have, right? I mean, knowing what you know now, how do you balance the amount of data that you have at your fingertips to help you make decisions versus, hold on a second, time out, we got to use some common sense here, and instill some common sense into our administrative thought process, especially since you're dealing with such intellectually intelligent folks and physicians.
Okay, you want me to take that one, Kelly? I've got to. You're right. There's tons and tons of data. Both Kelly and I would love to have time to just, run models and analyze and really come up with a good answer. Although healthcare is significantly complex, you can probably find 5 things in your practice that all tie together. So like in my practice, I look at my accounts receivable and how long it takes a claim to get out. But what I have found, and I've religiously done this for the last 7 years at my practice, is I count how many surgeries we do every day, how much money hits the bank every day, and how many office visits we have every day. And if I'm within 5 or 10% every single day of that exact number, then you know what? Everything all works out. So I think what you have to do is identify those 3 to 5 metrics within your practice that that you can't be doing anything good if you're not hitting those 3 metrics. So if you're doing something poorly, you're not going to hit those metrics. Maybe your access is bad, or your billing company or your inside billing are not sending out things fast enough. So I've identified surgeries, office visits, and collections, and if I hit my targets, everything just sort of else.
There's a business development component to that too, right? I mean,
our audience is mixed, right? I think in this particular scenario, we're going to have a lot of other healthcare professionals tune in to listen to what our team has to say. But, we have instances where people are just cruising and they're at the top of their game, and they stay at the top of their game and perform at a tremendous level for a long, long time. But then there's practices that are in this revolving cycle of poor performance, panic, turnover. Okay, that person didn't do the job, fired, rehire, fire, rehire. I mean, Kelly, part of the reason you created your organization was to help pull people out of that pattern and to hold off on the panic, right? I mean, let's talk about that for a minute, because I think there's a lesson to be learned here from the two of you, because again, you have an organization that's specific to that, and Rick, you've been actively involved in many mid to large group practices in your tenure where you've been the rescuer, but you've also been the guy that said, hey, things are pretty good, but we just got to amp things up a little bit or tweak some things. So maybe speak to that. Like, what words of advice do you have for people that are maybe at that point to say, holy crap, things are bad. If I don't do something, I just might have to close the doors.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, don't, call us. So, one thing I have found why I say that there is no playbook, there's a solution to your individual situation that's going on. So what our company does as healthcare consultants, we offer consulting services, we offer back office solutions, and we'll get into the details of, a lot of our problems in medical offices that we encounter that actually affect our bank accounts and metrics that, Rick was talking about is, the burden of prior authorizations, insurance verification. I mean, I was literally at a client today who has, called me, and she just said, Kelly, my goal is to never, ever repeat 2020. I am a physician. I went to school for years. I want to succeed. It can never happen again. And so as I evaluate the practice, it's like I find things that can be done better, because there are certain playbooks, like insurance verification. A lot of doctors don't know how important that is. A lot of patients don't know actually how important it is to them for a provider to verify their benefits so that a provider can actually quote them. And, we never say exact, but a good a good price of what they're going to owe, because we prior authors the surgery, to get it approved. Otherwise, the patient's going to get billed the full balance. And so if we can implement that, doctor's happy because he's getting paid, patient's happy because it didn't get billed, all to the patient because it got denied for no auth, right? And so my company comes in and we evaluate those things, because between myself and my team, which, it's made up of, myself, physicians, other operations director level people. I have a team, MAs even, that have worked on my team for years that know how a back office runs. And so anyways, we have a group of people who we go into practices and we assess what could be done better. And we have really seen change through that, because it's the small things that add up to big dollars that actually, again, drive the leadership team in doing all of the things. Because I've always said this, everything flows up to finance. If you have front desk doing their job because they were trained properly, insurance verification, getting referrals in for providers, if you have surgeries getting authorizations, if you have MAs checking all the boxes, if we're going to get into like MIPS and compliance and what you have to do to actually get paid from Medicare and not take pay cuts. And it's people like myself and Rick who have that experience that come in and give these providers a playbook, and then all they do is tweak it again, because there's no perfect playbook, but there are things that make a practice successful that we give them, and they tweak it to make it their own, and we help with that.
Awesome. Well, this gives us a great opportunity really to talk about, physicians go to school to be physicians, right? They don't go to school to be business people, and they hire administrators to run the practice. But at some point, there's got to be a meeting of the minds, right? There has to be some physician leadership come up alongside administrative leadership and make sure that they're in tune with the song that they're singing, right? I mean, it will impact the success of the organization. Rick, I'd love to ask you the question, when you look at physician leadership working with administrative leadership, you've had a tremendous amount of experience doing that. Talk about the good, the bad, and the ugly, and maybe what are some of the secrets to success with making that relationship work well?
Well, there's no question, whether it's Medical Group Management Association or, some of the other organizations that collect data, the better performing groups always have a strong physician administrator team. I mean, it's just key to having that sync between, 1, 2, 3, whatever, the management team versus the physician team. The other thing is even though a physician says, I don't want to get involved, I just want to be a physician, they still are the owners of their business. So being an owner of a business has a certain amount of responsibility, so you can't divorce yourself completely from the business. So yes, I went to medical school, but you also have to take the time to learn your business. And it's never been very popular during their training program to set aside business type courses, although I understand some of the medical schools now have a few courses in understanding how to run your business. But what happens is the ones that have risen to the top of your organization from a physician perspective are the same type of people that raise to the top in any organization. Some people go in and, they're an accountant for the rest of their life, and some other people go into an accounting firm and they end up being a partner. You have the same variation within your practice from the ones that do it. And there will always be enough physicians within the practice that understand that they also have to put some of their time aside to the business, and they will take the time to learn the business. They'll take the time to learn how to do the financials. They'll read the documents on what the government structure is, and then they will value the physician administrator team. One of the hardest things that a lot of practices have, and it's things that Kelly's company can do for them, it's not cheap to get good professional management to help you run your practice. Mm-hmm. And if you're not willing to invest in either internal resources or external experts to help you, this business will eat you alive. It's high volume, highly complex, compliance, rules. So you need the skill set within your organization, or have somebody help you, or your organization will flounder. And that's why you see this up and down, and there's some do well and some don't do well. It's like any other type of business. You have to know what makes you successful, and you have to be disciplined every single day to do what you need to do to keep the business.
So this brings up an interesting reaction, right? Because I hear the word consultant, and I don't necessarily have a negative connotation to that. But when that word's said to a physician, I've seen physicians just kind of go, like their head and their shoulders just go in and they just shut down, right? Because there's been terrible experiences with many consultants many a time in this industry. So what words of advice would you have to administrators and to physicians to say, how do you vet whether or not the consultant that's sitting in front of you can actually deliver? How do you kind of make sure that the person you're hiring can actually do the scope of work that you're asking them to perform?
Well, you know, the good ones seem to have a record of success behind them, so they've got good word of mouth. Or because I've had an interesting career, because I've spent about half of it doing consulting and about half of it, you know, I'll consult for a few years and then fix a practice for a few years, then go back to consulting, back and forth. You have to vet them, and the good ones are the ones who have actually done our jobs. You know, no disrespect to somebody coming right out of school, but it's hard to run a physician practice. MGMA had a consultant one time evaluate the practice administrator's job description, and it's like the third hardest job you can have in the world. Because if you read the body of knowledge from MGMA, there's 8 components to it. There's like marketing, compliance, finance, operations, risk management, and, you know, several more. And the way practice is run, it's not stratified. That practice administrator or CEO or practice executive, whatever you want to call them, is expected to be an expert in all 8 of those bodies.
Yeah.
So
I want to add to what he's saying, because I just went through this. I had an orthopedic surgeon reach out to me and tell me his problems and say, I've been in 5 different practices. I'm a great orthopedic surgeon, and I've now started my own business, and I was told that you're good at what you do. I'm going to give you 3 days. I happily accepted that challenge and said, if in 3 days you're not satisfied, you don't have to pay me, because I'm here to help you, right? Because I knew in 3 days, I knew his practice size, I know what I'm good at, and he's orthopedic. That is my specialty. We do all specialties, by the way. I have a team of RCM directors that come from all specialties. But me specifically, I have a background in both primary care and orthopedics. And orthopedic is where I've spent the last 9 years of my life, very heavily involved in orthopedic practice, growing it from, 2 providers to, I think we've got 22 total now. And I happily accepted his challenge. On my 3rd day, he handed me my check and said, you're hired. So going back to what Rick said, a lot of physicians either vetting them out or whatnot. Sometimes it's you being confident in what you know and a consultant proving themselves, but also physicians are skeptical, and I get that completely. So like he said, he gave me 3 days. If I don't see something, because he goes, Kelly, I've had those administrators that say they're going to do for me and they're going to do this and they're going to do that, and nothing happens. So in 3 days, I was literally able to walk in there and completely, solidify simple processes that should have been solidified a year ago, right? Like, again, going back to just simple things of verifying all appointments, making sure you have referrals. None of those things were being done, and then he wonders on the back end why he doesn't get paid. Making sure he's got a good RCM biller, somebody who doesn't know how to do orthopedic billing, doesn't know certain modifiers, how do you bill this out? So the claims are coming, getting back denied. And a person like myself can fully evaluate that and say, okay, here is everywhere you're doing good, here's everywhere that needs to be improved. And one thing I do different than a lot is I fix it. Mm-hmm. It's like, here's the solution, and I want to fix it while I'm standing here. and I want to teach. I want to train. Your staff member here is great. She just needs to know how to do it.
So it's interesting because I'm sitting here soaking this in, and I'm supposed to be the average Joe on the show, and I'm very average, so I do know that. But as a business owner, I find it interesting because the way I sum this up is that, okay, you take this physician, okay, he's got a lot to do just to do his job well. So to me, it comes down to delegation. So he has to have a great understanding of how things work. But once he understands how they work, he's got to be able to delegate and give up those tasks, those burdens to really be successful and to scale. And what I'm hearing is you either have a physician that's kind of a one-man band, so he's trying to do it all early on because he can't afford all of this, or you get somebody maybe that grows a little bit too fast. They think they can do it all on their own and they trip and fall, or various other issues. So is that accurate in that you expect the physician to have a great understanding? You mentioned the 8 points. They need to understand what that means, but they don't necessarily need to be expected to do it all or be there to do it all.
Well, it's like any other career. You can't always transfer your expertise in one area and expect to be an expert in another area. But you have the ability to either appreciate or understand what needs to be done. And if you truly understand what you're good at, you can then find the right individual or group of individuals to help you achieve your goals. You know, I always find it amusing, think back in your entire life, your kids want to be policemen, firemen, lawyers, doctors, hospital administrators. There's nobody who ever grew up in this world saying, when I get out of college, I want to be a practice administrator. There's no school for it. I mean, It's just, and if you look at everybody who runs a practice now, they all got there by accident. Nobody, now there may be some sons and daughters and aunts and uncles that
some
a relative
family lineage
did,
or something.
Yeah, you went to it, but I went to school and got a master's degree in operations management, and I was going to be a general manager of a GM plant or something like that, because that's something you can do. But what's interesting, and it's a little bit old school now, some of the successful practices have understood that medicine is not so unique that you can't apply a lot of the other lean technology or process improvement things, because really it's a process. It's, a patient looks for a product and they order the product and they come in and get the product, and then you bill for the product
and they review the product.
Yeah, and you have the manufacturer, which is the doctor who's making the product, and then you have to get paid for it. So there's a lot of systems that you can put in, and there's a lot of discipline that can go in it. So even if you go back to the very first question about how do you keep afloat, it's doing the right things every single day, following a process. And if you run your practice in the exact same way a doctor does to make sure there's 20 sponges at the end of the operation instead of 19, well, he's doing the exact same thing in his surgery. There's a beginning, a middle, and an end, and you just have to be disciplined in doing each of those things well, and appreciate that you have to have the right people in the right spots, with their skill set.
So, this brings up an interesting next kind of point of discussion, which in theory, we all assume that the physician is going to allow the administrator to do their job and to make decisions. But we know in reality that physicians are many times they're type A personalities, which isn't necessarily bad, but to a degree they like to be in control, right? Because they are responsible. So what would you say to any practice administrators that might be listening that are battling the administrator for control of the steering wheel, so to speak, right? How do you talk them off the ledge? Because they're tired of the fight. right? Because they've been fighting with the doctor because the doctor says, go do your job. And they try to go do their job. And the doctor says, well, no, you can't make that decision. We're going to go this way. Right? Because you two grin about that because I know this happens all the time.
I'll let Rick take this one.
Yeah, well, it's interesting. You know, there's a couple different ways to answer your question. One, the average lifespan of a practice administrator is like only 2 or 3 years. So when that happens, you know what they do? They go. Yeah. So, and then you get another one and another one. So our lifespan is like a running back in the NFL. You know, you don't last 5 years. The other thing you do is, I do believe to be a successful practice administrator is you really need to let the physician win all the time. And you don't need to be the chief. You know, and it's interesting because when I joined the Carrell Clinic 7 years ago, we had some challenges that we had to get through, and we got through them. And then one of the physicians became, you know, the president retired, and another physician took over, and we had kind of a chat and everything like that. And so he asked me, he said, Rick, what makes you tick? And I said, you know, I don't care if you take all the credit. I don't care if you deliver the message. You know, you've got the ego, you've got the type A personality, but just understand that I have a role here. And as long as you respect what I have to add and you listen to what I say, you can be the head coach and I'll be the offensive coordinator, the defensive coordinator. I think as a practice administrator, you have to understand that the doctors will always be the number one in the organization, and you should not try to compete for the affection of being number one.
But the key to the survival, and I say this hoping a lot of physicians are listening, is what he said though, is allow the administrator to play their role and listen to the administrator when it comes to, and him and I have talked about this so much, especially over the past year, when it comes to what we know is what we know, right? We know it very well. And if you as a physician don't understand, then ask. Just like before you do a procedure, you went through lots of training, you asked lots of questions. We do our job every day, and we like to think that we do it well, but ask us, and yes, I have learned that. You got to let physicians win. You have to let them play the cards. While all still the administrator playing the role that we play, they have to allow us to play that. And we have to be able to give our advice, whether it's advice they want to hear or not. And I think it just comes down to, like he said, respect and teamwork. But I did want to kind of point that out there, that I think, you know, physicians have to respect the role. I think he mentioned it earlier. MGMA came out and said that an administrator's job is like the third hardest job. It's because we wear 8 hats and we're in the dirty every day, and we really know what's going on because we are a master at what we do. And they're a master at what they do, and we want them to understand us.
What are the other 2 jobs that are harder than being a practice administrator?
Maybe it's not,
and I'm going.
Maybe it's number one.
Yeah, yeah.
Well, the one thing that is kind of amusing, and you know, I've been around a long time, so you know, sometimes things don't bother me as much as, but you do have to be a little bit of a mature manipulator, and you need to let the physician make the decision. But what you do is you give him 3 options and let him think that he picked one, but all 3 of them are the same. You know, you do that type of thing. And the president of the group, after he and I worked together for about 2 years, he just kind of, he likes Moscow mules and I like martinis, and we're sitting around talking, and he just kind of sat back and said, you know, Rick, I thought I was running this group these last couple of years, but all I'm is your puppet, and nobody knows it. He said, you've really done. So what you know.
That's
again,
the value of a good Moscow mule, by the way.
Yeah. That's the value of a good administrator.
No.
Thank you. So you just, you know, again, it's dial your ego back a little bit, let the physician win all the time, because really, if they pay you and they respect you, does it really matter if you're the one that's sitting on top of the hill?
And I think that's just so true in any business, any type of leadership tree that's out there. I think going up or down from the top to bottom or bottom to top, you can live by that, and everybody in the organization can live by that, and you'll get a lot further if you just calm down, put your ego aside, and allow the decision making to come from those that need that. Like they emotionally need to be in the spotlight to feel good about themselves.
I don't know about you, Tyler, but that was a pretty good master's class in practice administration over the last 35 or so minutes. I mean, there's some pretty salty stuff in that conversation that just happened.
Yeah, like martinis.
Yeah, we know Rick likes martinis. That's,
Yeah.
Well, do we want to segue? We want to talk about golf?
Yeah, I think we should talk about the Masters. So, Rick, we're going to quick interview for you here.
Sure.
Your first trip to Augusta National this past weekend.
Yep, I had the opportunity to, my wife and I had the opportunity to go on Saturday. And I'm probably spoiled because there was only 20% of the people there. So it was like we had the whole course to ourselves.
Rick claims he's never going back, but I don't believe that.
But it's interesting is on a side.
By the way, he bought enough clothes and sent it back. Yeah. He's planning on not going back.
That's right. But what's interesting is the TV doesn't do the Masters justice. It's the elevation. It's like mini mountain climbing. It seems like, the tee box is 600 feet up, and then you look back and it's up there. Somebody told me went to the Masters, the way to do it is either find a spot and stay there and watch it or walk the whole course. So I found my new favorite golfer, who was named Joaquin Niemann from Chile. And I lived in Chile for a period of time, so it's kind of my adopted country. So we chose to follow him. So we walked the entire 18 holes. And my wife wore one of those, Apple Watches that tells you how far you walk. And when we got done, it rang at her and said, "You've got a new record, 21,800 steps."
Yeah.
Wow.
So it's, and it's just not flat.
Yeah.
It's not, for those that are out there that claim you don't have to be in good physical condition to play golf, I'll make you a deal. Put on a tour bag as a caddy and walk that course Tuesday through Sunday, or technically Monday through Sunday, and tell me how you feel if you make it. Most people wouldn't make it, but
how much does the average tour bag weigh? 40 pounds?
At least
40
if not
pounds.
50 to 60 pounds.
Put a 40-pound backpack full of rocks, 40 pounds worth.
And I'm talking specifically Augusta National. I mean, the amount of slope there, it really is truly incredible. Did you eat any of the good food?
Well, we did the standard, the pimento cheese and the chicken salad and the sweet tea, and I even Googled it at home when I got home and made my own homemade pimento cheese. So it, I don't know, it's just an absolutely wonderful experience. I don't know what it'll be like when they get the full crowd in the future, but I'm glad I had a chance to go. That's
so cool. I think I mentioned it last week on our show that somebody said that you don't even have to be a golf fan of any kind. You go there and it's very much a spiritual experience when you walk in there from beginning to end. I mean, even the walkways from the parking lot into the actual venue, you feel like you're at the Botanical Gardens or something. I mean, really is spectacular. All right. I know we don't have a lot of time, but we have to talk a little bit about trivia. But instead of doing trivia questions, which we did last week, we're going to go through the top 10 money winners at Augusta National of all time. And I know we don't have time to go through all 10, so we're going to kind of speed through this. But I think everybody knows the first one. This is pretty easy.
Most famous golfer of all time.
Tiger Woods.
Okay, all right. Here we go. Ding, 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 ding.
Oh.
Yeah.
Hopefully our producer will put some.
This isn't inflation adjusted. So some guy who won 5 times before would paid $100,000.
See, that's why he is really good at what he does.
Yeah,
so if that's the case, then who is number 2? This one I also
Phil
thought.
Mickelson?
Ding, 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 ding.
Oh.
Got it. All right. Who's the third?
I have no idea. Oh, the young kid. He's young. Kind of cute. I don't know. He's young.
Jordan Spieth.
Jordan Spieth. That's it. That's it. That one actually surprised me. So only one green jacket there, and he's earned $5.621 million. to compare to Tiger's 9.5 million and Phil's 8.18 million.
Well, Phil and Spieth had a lot of top fives. Isn't that where you get it?
Yeah,
because it's over $1 million for second place.
It is. It was Will Zalatoris won 1.3 million this week, almost 1.285 million. In fourth, I thought this was interesting, DJ Dustin Johnson, which guy just finally got off the schneid at Augusta in 2020. Justin Rose in fifth, and then rounding out the top 10 is Bubba Watson, Adam Scott, Angel Cabrera, Lee Westwood, who's never won a major, and then Sergio Garcia in 10th place.
How much for
Sergio's got a
Sergio?
jacket, right?
Sergio, I don't have it in front of me, but I think he's somewhere in the 3 million range, 2.5.
I mean, Hideki's got to be close. I mean, he won 2.1 million this last week.
He did.
By the way, the classiest move by his caddy on the 18th green that has really ever been observed in professional golf. So I don't know if you guys saw this, but it's tradition that the caddy gets the flag off of the flag stick on the last green for the winner. And his caddy had taken the flag off the flag stick, and he goes to put the flag stick back in. He puts the flag stick back in and bows his head in respect to the golf course and to the tournament.
It was cool.
It was incredible. But by the way, I'll give both of you a guess. What do you think? Because they were talking about this already on Sunday night. So Hideki is the first Japanese professional golfer to win a major championship in that country's history. What do you think that win is estimated to be worth in endorsement money over the remainder of his career?
North of 100 million.
They're estimating that it's somewhere between 600 million and $1 billion in endorsement money the remainder of his career.
Now, you talking about humble. And by the way, another cool move. I don't know, did you hear Kevin Knott dropped the kids and wife off at the airport in Augusta, got back in his car, drove back to the venue to congratulate him and be there when he won, which I thought was pretty cool. Yeah. Some people like Kevin, some don't. I'm a Kevin Knott fan. I think he's great. Yeah. But speaking of him, we were laughing about this. Hideki flies from Atlanta to Chicago to catch his flight back to Tokyo. And imagine you're in row 12B and coach, and Hideki Matsuyama comes walking down the aisle, sits down, takes his green jacket, throws it over the chair, and sits down next to you. He flew coach from Atlanta to Chicago, and nobody knows what he flew to Tokyo. I guarantee you he was in a first-class compartment. But
I mean, there's a picture of him in the Atlanta airport sitting there on his phone, and literally the jacket's just hung over the chair next to him at the Atlanta airport for a 6:45 flight the next morning. You know, most major champions, when they win they hadn't even gone to bed at 6:45 the next morning. I mean, come on, let's be honest.
Or they're on a private jet to go to, the Jimmy Fallon show or something.
Yeah. So, man, anyway, we had to fit that in. But, we talk about Masters and practice administration, Masters champions in Hideki Matsuyama this year in 2021. Kelly and Rick, can't thank you enough for joining us on this episode of The Cutting Edge. Look forward to having you again in the future. There's so much ground to cover in this area of healthcare, and hopefully our audience, as we share this across all of our social media platforms, will respond and share comments, ideas, thoughts, more about what they want to hear, because we could go on and talk about this stuff for hours. So Tyler, thanks for making time.
We didn't. Quick shout out to Will Zalatoris. I mean, he's a Dallas kid.
Oh yeah, I mean
Trinity Christian Academy.
That's right.
Went off to Wake Forest, but congratulations.
So how about this on Thursday? So he's paired up. He's playing. He and Dustin Johnson are playing the RBC Heritage at Hilton Head. Mm-hmm. The common tie between those two.
What?
Who is the rules official that disqualified or that penalized Dustin Johnson at the 2010 PGA Championship at Whistling Straits?
Oh, it's the guy.
David Price.
Yeah.
David Price taught Will Zalatoris when he was growing up.
Interesting. Very interesting.
So, two worlds collide.
He has a chance to be the first player in the history of golf to not have a PGA Tour card and be invited to be on the Ryder Cup team.
That's right.
It's incredible. All right, I'm done now.
Yeah. All right, everybody. Thanks for joining us. We'll be with you next week for our next episode of The Cutting Edge. Talk soon.